Welcome and thank you for joining us by clicking on this presentation we've put together to help share with you some ways that you can foster your student success and support what we're trying to do at school to move them along on their high school journey. So we put together this presentation and it's covering topics such as sleep hygiene, effective study skills, digital well-being, and some organizational strategies that you can help your child master.
And if you would like access to the slides, apart from this video where you don't need to listen to our voices in the background, you can scan the QR code that's right there, or you can actually type in the link at the bottom, bit.ly/KSSparent, and it will take you directly to those slides.
So a little bit about who we are. I'm Fiona Irvine. I'm a learning assistance teacher at KSS and have been doing learning assistance for 22 years here. And prior to that, I was teaching secondary English, and I also have had two teenagers come through as KSS graduates, and they're now launched off into university, as many of you are looking to do with your child down the road.
And my name is Christina Drescher. I also do learning assistance at KSS, and I also teach chemistry and science as well. So I really have a passion for this area and working with teens, and we both love to do that. And I also have a child in grade 12 this year, so we both really know what it's like to work with this age group and parent this age group as well. So we're excited to talk to you about some of that.
So to begin with, it's a big time of transition, going from middle school to secondary school, and it's a time of transition for your families as well, as you maybe have older children or younger ones, plus you're trying to support your student who's in this transition to high school or transitioning out of high school at the end of this year. So some of the big ones for our middle school kiddos that have just arrived are transitioning to a very different timetable. This timetable is 2.5-hour blocks, in case you weren't aware. It's an exhausting day for your child. So they come and they have one class in the morning, lunch, another class in the afternoon, with 2 fairly short breaks in between. And that's tricky. That's really hard to say. You're being expected to focus and be on task for whatever class it is for that long. So that's just something to be aware of and to consider when you're planning meals and snacks and lunches, as well as how to support in other ways. The other thing that's a big change for a lot of our students is now they're faced with regular curricular assessments. In grade 9, some kids haven't had any, like what we call tests, I suppose. So it's a regular part of their day-to-day now that they're in high school. So, quizzes, tests that are done independently, not maybe how they've done them before, if they've done them. And this time also starts the grad program, what we call the graduation program, where starting in grade 10, students are earning credits towards the 80 they need to have to graduate at the end of grade 12. Most students graduate with well over 80 credits, but 80 is the minimum, along with specific courses that they need. So courses count, credits matter, and that is all contributing to things that are a bit different and difficult in this transition.
And in grade 11 and 12, although they've gotten used to the high school area, there's still new pressures and some big decisions to be made. So they're really starting to think about their post-secondary options, whether that's college, working, trades, university, could be any of those options. It's still a lot to think about. A lot of them are also working while they're going to school, which we've really noticed over the past few years has increased a lot, and they're really having a hard time balancing between working and trying to make money while also getting that study time in, because that's going to be really important when leading towards that post-secondary admission. And also they're going to have these provincial assessments that have been put in place. So that's an English 12 literacy exam that is required for graduation, and a lot of universities are starting to look at that grade as part of the admission process. And if they're in French immersion, they will also be doing a French assessment as well. So just a lot of extra stresses in those upcoming years.
So some ways that you can help. For sure, encourage attendance. There's a huge correlation between students who are in the building, in their seats, in their classes, ready to learn, and success. So We do have measures in place to try to encourage attendance, but it goes a really long way if parents are supporting that from home. Try not to sign your child out if they're asking you. It's not uncommon for them to say, oh, we're not doing anything, or we're just watching a movie, or I completed everything I need to do. Chances are that's not the full story. And if teachers are showing a movie, which does happen, generally they're educational movies towards a curricular outcome that they're working on. So obviously if they're ill, sign them out, take them home. We want to support their wellness, but please don't sign them out just because they say there's nothing being done here. And on that same topic is the school messenger app that is used to record attendance and to, when you report absences, please don't give them access to that because they might be signing themselves out and you not knowing. And that again is not putting them in the seat in the class doing the learning.
So another way that you can help is by keeping up to date with what is going on in your child's classes. Now, of course, we do want that to overall become their job as they are in high school, and we're really trying to foster that independence. However, if this is something that is a struggle currently where you feel that they're behind in their classes and you don't know why they're behind or what they need to be doing, Google Classroom Connection is a great way to be able to do that. So ensure that you are connected to the classroom as a parent. This should give you the option to be receiving parent updates. And you can see over on the right hand side of the slide there that there's a daily summary shown there. So if you are signed up for daily summaries, you can also change it to weekly, etc. in the bottom of your email settings when you receive them. Any class that your child is taking where they use Google Classroom, they'll send an update like this. And so it's not put together by the teacher, it's just showing, Google Classroom is showing you what the kids are seeing on their stream and any upcoming assignments or missing assignments. That's what I've shown in the picture there, missing from last week. So that's a great opportunity for you to check in with your kiddo and say like, hey, what's going on in English? And then what's going on in careers? And if they don't mention it to you, you can say, well, I'm pretty sure you're missing something from there. So there's a way to do it without taking complete control of it and still giving them that independence, but it helps you to be in the know of what's going on. It's also really helpful to keep in touch with their teachers regarding their progress if you have any concerns, especially not everyone uses Google Classroom. So sending an email, going to parent-teacher conferences, those are really worthwhile opportunities. And then, of course, you just want to talk to your child. Have them show you what they're working on. They might be really proud of something that they're doing. Try and ask like open-ended questions about it so that you can get a little more out of them than a yes or nope.
Okay, and then we have some information for you about digital well-being. This is a fairly new area for a lot of us because it's new that we didn't have it when we were children. So things that you might be facing nowadays with your children that we didn't have to deal with and our parents didn't have to parent us. We didn't carry around mini computers in our daily life, and that's the reality for our teens this day and age. And that brings a lot of challenges with it, but we want to try to support you in knowing that you have more control than you might think you do with the relationship between your child and their device. So some of these things that we're hoping you can have conversations, that they're conversation starters to help you talk to your child about being mindful about screen time, but something to do would maybe be create boundaries about when they use their phone, how they use their phone. It's not too late. I know it seems like it is that, well, they've had this device for this many years now and we didn't maybe set those rules initially because it is a challenge and it's always changing too. But Christina's going to talk a little bit more about some tools that are available to you as a parent and to your child that will help them manage and help you manage that device effectively.
This is a really worthwhile area to push into. As we all know, as parents, we need to pick our battles, but I really think that the phone battle is a worthwhile one. This is something that's going to be with them for the long haul, and their brains are so malleable right now. This is the time to really push in. So I use a few different apps that I've tried over my time of parenting my teen. One of the ones I had a lot of success with was Stay Focused. It's a cool app because it can work on either device, Apple versus Android, and you can make a lot of different windows of time. So for example, I was able to make a window of time that was during school time where she wasn't able to get onto any of her scrolling apps, I call them. So Instagram, maybe Snapchat, anything like that, that would be distracting for learning. And then you can also put limits, like all of those apps combined, you can only have an hour of day, things like that, and especially a sleep one for overnight. So there's stay focused. There's also digital well-being and parental controls. That's on a Samsung or an Android typically. That's what it would be called in the settings area. And then on Apple, it's called Apple Screen Time, and you can go into like a family and limit usage area. You can also create a passcode on an Apple phone that your child doesn't know the passcode to, that just affects the screen time, and you can create limits on there as well. I've had success with that one also. And then there's also Google Family Link. So we're going to show photos of all of these app icons at the end of the presentation so that you have them, but it's really worth taking the time to play around on these a little bit. They're very user friendly, and consider putting some limits and boundaries on your child's phone to help them learn how much screen time they should be having. Because I think if you checked their screen time, if you haven't looked already, you would be surprised at the amount of time they are spending on their phone.
For sure. And then another really good thing to start learning is how to model what good balance and screen management looks like. So even though it might not seem like your teen is picking up on your behaviors and that you're modeling, they really are. And sometimes those are the strongest messages because they won't always listen to what we say, but they are watching. So one really good place to start is when you're having dinner together as a family. And I know we're, busy, different commitments coming and going, but whenever you are sitting down at the table together, we just really recommend device-free for everybody so that it's not only modeling for your child that you're engaged and interested in your family and your conversation and learning about everybody's day, but it's also teaching them good conversation habits, good practice that when you're engaging with people, when you're sharing a meal, that's the time to really lean into conversation. And that's something kids are struggling with these days. So when you can model that at home and have those conversations, it does transfer into when they have a job interview or they're have to talk to a teacher. They have developed those skills a little more than just disengaging with a phone all the time. So when you're having those times, everybody put the devices away, try to avoid yes or no questions. Have some questions that, they might seem a little forced at first, but the conversation will come easier. So, what was one thing that made you smile today? What was something that you're proud of? What was something that you learned today that you didn't already know? What was something that you did with another person that you want to share or tell me about? So there's lots of ways to have those conversations, and it really, really does a lot of great things for the family and for the students' ability to hold conversations and be off that device. We will talk later about no phones in the bedroom. There's lots of research supporting why we should be doing that. Okay, so the importance of a good night's sleep. We all know that we do better when we've slept. The same is true for our children. So there's a lot of different ways to support sleep hygiene in your home, and one of those is to avoid letting them nap after school. Like we mentioned at the start, it can be an exhausting day for kids, but coming home and napping then prolongs their ability to fall asleep at a regular or appropriate time in the evening. So other things to do to avoid that urge to nap would be to get up and move, go outside, even a quick walk around the neighborhood. If you have a pet, take the pet for a walk, ask a parent to go with you, go on your own. Try and maybe go to the gym. Lots of our students have gym memberships. That's another really good thing to do. Other things to help would be creating a wind down routine, and I think this is somewhere that Christine has been fairly successful in developing at home, and I'll let her speak to what that looks like in their house.
Yeah, so a wind down routine in the evening is something that a lot of adults have and don't even realize that they have. Maybe you make a tea before bed, maybe you and your partner chat about things before heading to bed, but most of us ideally are not on our phones at the last minute before going to sleep. The research really shows that having no screen or blue light time at least 30 minutes before bedtime is going to give you that best sleep and that most calm feeling. So at our home, even though our teen is getting quite a lot older, she's 18 now, we still really recommend and sort of send her towards her room, honestly, at like 9:30. Not because she's going to go to sleep at that time necessarily, but that's the time when she plugs in her phone downstairs and then starts to just wind down. That could be through coloring, journaling, Sudoku, having a little self-care face mask, whatever. But it's time to just be with your thoughts and relax. So some other things that can be done is using mindfulness and breathing apps. There's a few apps here. Again, we'll link those at the end. Better Sleep, Calm, Headspace, Breathe to Relax. Obviously, those are on a phone, so that might be something you would do beforehand and then leave your phone aside and then head to your room. Or if you have one of those little mini speakers like a Google Home, it can often take you through a mindfulness breathing routine as well. So there's a lot of different options. And sometimes this is the best time of night when your teen wants to tell you things and have a chat. And the chances of them talking to you if they're walking up to their room on their phone are so much lower than if they're just kind of walking up there in their own head, ready to tell you something at that time. And having that regular time every night is also really, really worthwhile. It's obviously harder to manage that on the weekends with teens, but even if you can just stick to something that's always on the weekdays, it's going to be really helpful for everyone.
So we want to let you know that you have more control and power than you might feel like you do. So if there's one thing you can implement and stay firm on, it would be the no phones in the bedroom. That's phones, smartwatches, smart TVs, video game consoles, iPads, computers, all of those things. There isn't an upside, especially the longer the night goes on. It's not only contributing to fatigue and lack of sleep and lack of ability to handle their next day, but there's also other dangerous things that are available to them, which really can be a scary thing as a parent, that you're providing this access. We have this video from Smartphone Free Childhood US that is funny, but I think it's poignant in a way that shows, I think it hits home with what these devices are capable of.
Hey kiddo, it's about time for bed, okay?
Okay.
Well, remember, there's a box in the corner over there with all the pornographic material that's ever been made in the world, even the really weird stuff that could scar you for life. I'm trusting you not to look in there, okay?
Okay.
Feelings are for losers.
Oh, and this guy's gonna be in your corner all night, just randomly spewing out hateful things. Just ignore him, okay? While I'm thinking of it, there's an order form on your desk where you can purchase illegal drugs. The mean girls from your school are gonna be standing there talking about you all night. And this Russian hacker's gonna keep asking for your password.
I'm not hacker. Amazon customer service.
Just need you to ignore him, okay? Love you, buddy.
So it uses, I think, a bit of humor, and although the child is quite a bit younger than the students that we're talking about, all the things they're able to access are the same. And I think it really points out the dangers that our kids can get into when they have this time in their rooms at night. And, anywhere from, bullying from others, engaging in activities that stay on the internet forever. There's just a lot of harm that can be done, and eventually they're going to be adults and managing that device on their own. So if we can help them with these guidelines now, they will develop a healthier relationship themselves with their device moving forward when they have to do those things on their own.
Okay, you are what you eat. So we're also talking a little bit about what kids are putting into their body, not just through devices and screens, but also through eating and drinking. So overall, students are just over-caffeinated, they're hyperstimulated, they're lacking a lot of healthy nutrition. And that's not because you're not providing that nutrition, but it's because of the choices they're making when they're not at home, typically. And so they're often going off campus and buying energy drinks. They're going to the Circle K, buying a 4-pack of energy drinks. We see them drinking this throughout the day. They're also also having those massive venti Starbucks drinks that are just packed full of sugar and caffeine, and other beverages that they're starting their day with. And this is just a really scary thing, because these are some of the side effects of caffeine that we really don't think about, especially in teens. Insomnia, anxiety, depression, blood clotting, dependence, muscle pain, upset stomach. There's so many things that affect the kids this way, and it really comes out in their learning. We see them being restless. These 2.5-hour blocks we talked about, it's extremely challenging for them to stay focused already, but you add in those extra levels of caffeine and it's very messy.
Okay, so moving on, we have some tips and skills and strategies to help support your child in starting to study and plan and organize. And what does that look like? Because that is a different, again, skill that they might not have developed yet. And there's ways we can support that. And even a lot of adults, doing some of these things will help the whole family maybe get a little more organized, and it actually finds you time. Paradoxically, when you put the time into these things, often you find the week has gone smoother, the morning's gone smoother than in the past.
Yeah, so some of the things we have both shared with each other that we do in our homes is having a visual calendar in your home. So digital ones are great, having Google Calendar, that's awesome, but kids really love a visual. And I say kids, but teens too. And I think even adults love a visual. We both actually have visual calendars in our home that are color coded. For each person in the home has a different color. That really helps them to see kind of what their responsibilities are for the week, and also having visual checklists for things like that as well. People love to check off something off a list. I know that I do, and my teen for sure gets pretty excited when she's completed something. And also you can have a shared digital family calendar as well for more of that long-term planning. And it's a great idea for independence building to start encouraging your teen to add to it when they make appointments and start kind of working on that side of things. I've started doing that on my side, getting her to call and make appointments, adding things in and letting me know about things, because that's a really important adult skill that a lot of people still don't have as adults. And then also their binder. It's something that is a great thing to keep organized. Every kid has a different situation with binders. We sometimes see kids just with a tiny little purse and they've shoved all of their papers inside. So you might want to consider suggesting a binder, a folder, a duotang, anything that they're willing to organize their papers in, that's not just folded into little piles, is a great opportunity. Using a different binder for each day, something like that, so it's not overwhelming. But we also have organizational services at the school if you want to come by the learning center. But this is an area that a lot of kids struggle with, and they sometimes just really need that encouragement from you. Like, okay, let's sit down once a week and just do a quick binder organize. And then it doesn't build up to be such a disaster every time.
Yeah. It really does help. We do see backpacks exploding. So, and on that, another few ways to help keep organized and have those smoother transitions in the mornings is to have your child pack their backpack the night before. These are things that you can help remind them about, but they can also set reminders in their device. We know they're using their devices, so let's teach them how to do it responsibly and in a way that effectively helps them manage and plan their day. Another thing that's really great to do that I know we both do is meal prepping. I sometimes fall off a little bit, but when I get back on doing it, I'm always surprised how much better it feels. Everybody in the home knows, okay, here's the plan, here's where dinner's posted, I know what we're having, and it does help plan not only dinner and then the rest of that evening, but it also does help plan, okay, so what does that mean for lunch tomorrow? If we're having something that can contribute to leftovers, have them pack that lunch the night before after dinner. Have some containers, have them put things together. We do have microwaves available to them if they do want to bring leftovers that they're going to warm up. Any kind of routine that you can build in does support organization, support planning. It does transition over into other aspects of their life, and even including a few tasks for them to do each day. When you get home, your job's to unload the dishwasher that we set this morning. When you get home from school, sometimes it's direct, sometimes kids have activities and things, but having them help out, they're part of that household. So it really does help foster those skills that they're going to need when they eventually transition to living with roommates or on campus or having their own place. And so it contributes again to good skill management. There's kids that don't know how to empty a dishwasher. There's kids that don't know how to do laundry. And these are life skills, and they're certainly old enough to learn these things. And again, it's a little bit more time that you can sit down and say, what are some things that you could learn to, or that you need to learn to contribute to the house, and then divide up those tasks. We do want to let you know that if you are running late in the morning, if they're running late in the morning, it happens to all of us. Despite all the best planning, we all have those days. So just please know that there is breakfast available to the students every single day. So when they walk into the school, there's a station where it's staffed and they can get bagels, English muffins, toast, applesauce, yogurts, fruit. There's food available to them. So if you're running late, just get out that door. Hopefully they've packed their lunch in their backpack the night before, and they can grab some food when they get here.
Okay, so we also want to talk about just homework and getting things done at home and just that setting of the scene. So when kids sit down to do homework, whether it's in their room or perhaps at the kitchen table, I know that's where it happens a lot in our house, you really want to have that clear space, clear mind. So not having that phone around. I know it seems that we're talking a lot about phones, but it really is making that big of a difference. So studies also show that having a phone, even nearby, even face down or face up, still causes that anxiety and that stress of thinking somebody might be messaging me. But if you have it out of sight, out of mind, it's really worthwhile. Not having TV on in the background. Students often say they work well with music, but you really want to be careful with what kind of music you're choosing, because a lot of the time lyrical music is very distracting. So looking at some other options like lo-fi hip hop or classical music are great options for that. And then also setting realistic goals. Sometimes our kids will get really ambitious and say, I'm going to study for the whole day, but nobody can really realistically do that. So doing things more like 30 minutes with a 5-minute break, and just really going hard on that 30 minutes is going to be a much more successful use of that time. And using that timer helps it make it feel a bit more manageable for them.
Yeah, and then as far as some specific study strategies, some of the tried and true things that worked when we were in school, when you were in school, they're still valid. They still work. There's still really good strategies. There's new technology that can support and help, but some of the old tried and true are really still valuable. So things like having a variety of different colored highlighters, going through their notes, actively highlighting, extracting what they've highlighted to then make maybe cue cards for review. Just the standard cue cards, you can buy them. Grocery stores generally have them, but dollar stores, yeah, you can get them quite readily. So, those are really good things to have. And actually using cue cards and having your child write them out is not only an active way to study, it's also a really great way that you can then participate. You don't have to know what they're doing, but if they've made their cards, you can say, oh, hey, how about I take you through a review? And you just have to, flash the card, or they tell you their answer and you read what's on the back and you let them know if they're correct or not. And, that's just a way to get you both engaged. And then you're seeing a little bit about what they're learning. And, I think a lot of parents tend to shy away from it at this age because they don't know anymore maybe what the content is that their child's learning. And so they just take a step back, and we really want to encourage you to lean in, because you don't have to know the content to actually be involved and supportive and encouraging with your child. Try to not let them get away with saying I have no homework. They will often say that, and sometimes it's true, but there's still things they can do to review, to make good use of a little bit of time. So maybe it's a day they've had a test and there is no homework coming up in that subject, but they have other subjects. They could always, look at the last set of notes they took and review them. They could sometimes even making a cheat sheet, even if you're not allowed to use it on a test, making a cheat sheet is a really effective way to study, because then you're highlighting all the really key parts of that unit, of that topic. There's a really great use of AI here that's available Christina uses it a fair bit, and you can ask for more questions. You can say, BC Science 10 curriculum, chapter 5, study questions with an answer key. And so again, those are things that you can help encourage them to do at home, but there's lots of ways they can get extra study questions. They can get extra math questions. There's lots of things out there that are good tools. They can, I've even used it for English. If they're doing a quiz on a novel or on, a play, they can, just type in the title and ask for a review quiz, a matching quiz, a terms quiz. And those things are available. So again, it's, even if they say there's no homework, there's things they can do, and it doesn't have to be a long night of homework. Maybe it is just a 30-minute session, and then they get the rest of the night off. But it's just a good practice that there's always something that can be done. Don't let them get away with, I'm studying, I'm reading it over. That's really passive, and that's the worst way to study, because we're really not, our brains aren't engaging and absorbing. So all of these things that we've mentioned would be really preferable to that. And don't let them get stuck. If they are really starting to get frustrated and stuck on a question, have them move on, star it, come and see us in the Learning Center, drop in to see their teacher in the morning or the next time they have that class and say, could you review this question? I really couldn't figure it out. We have Tuesday morning sessions. Every Tuesday morning from 8 to 9 is drop in the Learning Center for math science help. So again, you don't have to be the one who has to know it to help them. Just be there to encourage them that it's okay to get stuck, and that's how we learn, is to just I'm not going to let that trip me up, because we want them to carry that practice over into assessments too. If you get stuck on a question, let's not turn that into I can't do the rest of the test. Let's turn that into, I need to take a break from this question. I need to recognize that I'm not making productive movement here. I need to go on to another question and maybe circle back, and maybe not. So lots of things that you can support from home as well.
Right, so that's going to bring us to the end of the presentation. We're so glad you were able to tune into this video and check this out. What we really want you to take away from this is that you play such a big role in supporting your child's learning and development. So I think sometimes we minimize our role, especially as they get older. We think they're independent, they're teenagers, they're older, but they want your boundaries, they need your boundaries, and they will respond to them. And there is that balance of having freedom and responsibility and having realistic boundaries, because they are in that kind of limbo phase at this time, and this is sort of our last chance to really kind of hone in on that in these last couple of years of high school. And so we just really want to encourage you that you are a really important person in this kind of final school chapter for them.
We don't want to make it sound like it's all like sunshine and roses. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be battles, there's going to be some disagreements, but ultimately, as Christina said, they are looking for these boundaries. They are looking for really consistency and knowing that you're going to stand behind what you say, and they want that. So please don't downplay your importance and the effectiveness that you actually do carry in their lives. And hopefully we've given you some things to consider that help you take some little steps forward in creating that relationship with your child and moving towards just respectful boundaries that down the road as adults they feel like they have a little more confidence and skill in setting for themselves.
And just lastly on this slide here, we have all of the apps that we discussed throughout there, just so that you can see what those icons look like if you're looking to download any of them or have a look at them. We've also included a couple of websites. There's one, her name is Lynn Lyons, and it's a website all about anxiety support, as we know that's a huge driver for a lot of our teens that makes things extra challenging, as well as the White Hatter. That's a digital literacy and internet safety website. They're fantastic. They're Canadian. They have lots of great information. You can also follow them on social media, and they'll kind of give you some more information to understand what's going on in the digital world today. And then just on the last slide here, we'll just show that slide deck QR code again if you'd like access to the slides so that you can see them again, or you can type in that link. But we are just so grateful that you made it here today. Please feel free to comment any questions below, and we will keep an eye on that. And we are just so glad you could make it. Thanks so much.
And hope we provided some food for thought and some things that you can maybe tweak to help support your family and your child at home.